Well, today, my little project is I'm going to take this scope off of this Marlin 1895 guide gun, 4570. It's just my little quirk, I reckon, but I don't like scopes on any Marlin or Winchester lever action. That's just my thing. I don't like the looks of them. I don't like the way they feel. The scope on a Browning BLR lever action seems perfectly at home to me. And on the Savage 99, I like them either just open sights, some kind of receiver sight, tank sight, peep sight, and I like them with scope on them. But the Marlins I don't. So, but I had to put the scope on this one last year for possibility of using it as an elk hunt in the Rockies. Well, I wound up taking another rifle, so I'm going to take the scope back off this, put the Ashley Go String sight on it, which looks and works just fine, which I definitely prefer. Take this scope and mount it on a Ruger #1 light sporter 30-06. So it's about time to get started. Okay. Get these rings off here. They were a little tight. Got them going my way now. Well, now that we got the top ring off, let's get these bases off. Got the rear one, and let's get the front one off. To get the front ring out of the bases, I put the top half of the ring back on it, inserted me a wooden dowel rod, then I just use that to turn that base, that ring right out of the base. So now, got the base off. Ready to put the Ashley Go String back on it. So now we got the scope off. And we cleaned the receiver. Go over and I got my Ashley Go String sights. This, if I can get some up here where you can see it maybe. The Ashley Go String has a very relatively, maybe I should say a relatively large aperture, and it really doesn't make any difference the size of that aperture from, you know, as big as this is down to a little fine pinpoint, which I have on several of my tank sights. The smaller apertures are used primarily in target shooting. And you gotta be a doggone good shot to know the difference between a teeny little hole and one that big. You wouldn't think so, but it's true. Your eye just naturally finds the center of that circle, whether it's little bitty or a fairly good size. I actually think it's a little easier to find the center of a fairly large circle than a little bitty one that you hardly see through anyway. But anyway, this sight was made by Ashley. I don't remember what his first name was, but it's called Ashley Ghost String. It's called a ghost string because it's so big that when you pull this up to your eye, you can hardly see the sight at all. You're just looking through it at your front sight, and you don't think about it. Your eye will just automatically center. Don't start thinking about it. You'll start wandering all over the place. Just throw it up and use it. But now, this sight is made by XS Sight Systems. XS Sight Systems. It's a really a neat apparatus. The bottom has a stud that you can see here. This goes down into, it fits down into the rear sight scope base hole. Then you have a screw here that goes down into the other one. So it's held in by just one screw and this pin that fits down into that scope base hole. And the screw goes into the other scope base hole. So you want to, of course, make sure that's cleaned off. And it certainly doesn't hurt to put just a drop of Loctite on it. But anyway, the sight is adjustable by unscrewing the aperture. You take it a half a turn at a time, and the screw actually has flats on either side. And you take, there's a little set screw here and a screw on this side. So in order to move this sideways, you back one of these screws out as you bring this screw in. So the two screws are in combination, moving the aperture left and right, and by screwing it down or up, you get your elevation. And it's a very, very rugged and quite accurate scope or sight system, and they look great on this rifle. So I'm going to go ahead and stick her on here now. First of all, I'm going to put just a tad of Loctite on this thing and set it down in that little groove.
Are you recording?
Take a screwdriver and set her down. Wipe off that little bit of excess Loctite. And tighten her down really good. She's now installed. So now it's on good and tight, and I was reinstalling this because I'd already had it on this gun. Been on here for several years, and it's already zeroed, and I just took it off to put that scope on. So now this thing should be pretty much still zeroed, but I'm going to have to take it out and put it on paper to really find out. We'll check that out in few days. Right now, the weather's just not quite right for that, so we'll get it checked out here in a few days. Now I have my XS or sight system or Ashley ghost string sight back on my Marlin Guide Gun, which I like a lot much better than the scope. It just looks right on this gun. And I suppose that one of the main reasons it looks right, it is right. I'll take it out and put it on the bench here for long again. Right now I took that scope off so I can put it on Ruger number 1 and get it off of this one. I don't like it on this one. So now that's gone. This is a walk around wood rascal. Awesome gun for that. So we now put the screws, filler screws back in. Make sure we didn't get them down far enough to hit our bolt. They don't. Guide gun. Ready to rock. I might make note of the fact that the footage that I'm going to show with these 3 loads, this 500 grain hard cast lead, the 300 grain hollow point that I use for deer, and the 350 grain flat point that I use for elk. In that footage, I did not have the ghost string sight on it yet. Actually, I was shooting that with straight factory sight. But in this footage, I'm just trying to show not the sight itself, but I'm merely pointing out, showing you a little bit of what these 3 loads will do and what I use them for. So in that footage, there will not be this ghost ring sight. I've got a couple of 3 different loads for 4570. I've got right now I've got 2 4570s. That's this guide gun here and an 1895 Cowboy, and I use same loads in both of them, and they're pretty accurate in both rifles. But this one is my let's call it a plinking load. If you don't call a 500 grain bullet something to plink with, that's a 500 grain hard cast bullet. Flat nose, hard cast bullet. But I've only got 12 grains of unique powder in it. So it is very mild shooting. I'm going to give you a little peek at it right here. That's I'm shooting this bullet at a gallon jug full of water, and it's a very low velocity, just around 1,200 feet per second. Actually, the loads are really close to the original black powder loads, and they're quite mild, really. But this being hard cast, it doesn't expand or anything else, and it doesn't transfer a whole lot of that, what energy it has, to that jug of water. It pretty much just punches a hole right on through it, as you'll see here. This is the light one here first. That impact, that was just, I stopped it frame to frame, And that's just about the height of the, show you the height of whatever damage that the impact did. I caught that frame just at its height. One frame just as the gun goes off and before the bullet gets there, and then the other one is when this bullet hits. So you'll see that the recoil's not much. Recoil's not bad at all. I mean, it's exceedingly mild. Exceedingly mild. And not much recoil, not a whole lot of reaction to that gallon jug of water. That's with 500 grain hard cast bullet with 12 grains of unique powder. Another load. This is a 350 grain jacketed flat point. This is a Hornady bullet, and I've got it loaded with 56 grains of 30-31 powder. It's giving me a velocity in that rifle of right close to 2,000 feet per second. In the guide gun, it's probably a little bit closer to 1,900, and in the cowboy, 2,000. But you will see that it has a dramatic hit on that gallon jug. And you'll also see that it's got a substantial amount of recoil to it. I have taken an elk with this load, shot it, the elk was spooked and been spooked and he'd run. He'd actually been spooked a couple of times. When I got a shot at him, it was somewhere around that 80, 90 yard mark through the woods, but it's relatively open, fairly open woods. He was quartering away, and I took him right on the point of the rib cage. The rib cage, and it traveled forward through the body and exited just in front of the off shoulder. He went about 50 yards and left an awesome blood trail. He was piled up. And this was an animal that had already been spooked. And with this same reload, same bullets and everything else, my nephew also took a really nice bull. That bull also was alerted and had been jumped by another hunter and ran in front of my nephew. And I actually had that on film somewhere, but anyway, he took a behind the shoulder shot, heart shot. It ran approximately 60 yards, made a quick little circle and fell dead as a hammer. And then another friend of mine using these same reloads shot an absolutely awesome 408-inch bull. And it was not spooked, it was very calm. And when he shot, he took a hard shot on it. And that was typical of an elk. It just kind of stood there. It just stood there for, I don't know, 20, 30 seconds and just fell over. But this, my personal experience with 3 elk shot with this Hornady 350 grain flat point. And brother, did it do the job. And you can see in this video and the stills, you will see the recoil and the impact that it had on a gallon jug of water. Quite impressive. And it had a heck of an impact on the elk too. This is the elk. And this is a 300 grain Hornady hollow point. It's pretty much, not exactly, but it's pretty much the hollow point version of this bullet. It's not really. I mean, they're two entirely different bullets. This one has, I think, probably heavier, harder lead and a thicker jacket. Boy, it really performs great on elk. And this one has a hollow point and relatively thin jacket. I have extensive experience with this one on deer. Lord have mercy, this, and use that same load, which is odd. Go to your reload manual, Hornady reload manual, it's 56 grains for both the 300 and the 350 grain bullet. 56 grains at 30-31. They give approximately the same velocity. But this on deer is absolutely devastating. I mean, this big old bullet, it's devastating on deer. The last deer I shot with this, he was about 75, 80 yards away, coming down a steep hillside. He was coming straight down this hillside, and I was along the hill and shooting straight out the hillside. And he was coming down at a fast walk, and it was so steep that his feet slide. He's sliding. So he's a pretty good little clip, even though he's actually trying to walk, but he's going a pretty good clip, slipping and sliding down that hillside. And I was trying to track him through these peep sights, this is Ashley Ghost String. And when I got a little opening in the woods, I touched the trigger. He just collapsed with his legs went straight back along his side, his neck stretched straight out in front of him, and straight down that hill he slid like on a sled to the bottom of the creek bottom, to the creek bottom, flat creek bottom. This 300 grain Hornady hollow point is one awesome deer cartridge. And in the stills and the video, you'll see it literally vaporizes that jug of water. The 350 grain, it blew it all over the place, but it's more or less bigger droplets. With that heavier bullet plowed on through, and it didn't quite transfer as much energy to that water as this hollow point did. This hollow point pretty much delivered an awesome amount of energy to that jug of water. It blew that jug of water. Yeah, you'll see. This is the deer. So the performance of this 300 grain hollow point for deer and this 350 grain flat nose for elk, I'm telling you, you're not going to get much better. 45-70 is an awesome caliber, loaded at the right velocity with the right bullets. Now these loads are specifically for the Marlin 1895, not your weaker Springfields and stuff like that, and trapdoors. No, do not do that. These are specifically for the 1895 Marlin. And if you go to the reload man, you can find even hotter loads for the Ruger #1. But this bullet really performs great. Both of them at right around 2,000 feet per second. I have had this one loaded up to 2,500, and that's too much. The bullet just pretty much comes apart, you know. So I found it somewhere around 2,000 feet per second gives the best performance out of both this one, the hollow point, and the jacketed flat point. So look it up. 45-70, properly loaded, awesome caliber. So when the weather is a little bit more conducive, I'll take this thing out and check fire it, put it on the bench, put it on paper. But my bet is she shoots right where it was when I took this sight off. But that's for another day. I'm not going to go out and set up the shooting bench and the targets to check the zero on this thing. Curiosity's getting the better of me, so I'm not going to take the time to do that. But I am going to take a couple of offhand shots here just to satisfy my own curiosity until I do get the time or take the time to go out and put it on the bench. So I'm going to fire a couple of shots. The first one's going to be with that real mild plinking load. Then I'm going to shoot the elk load, which is quite potent. That was the mild load. Now we're going to shoot the elk load. You should see a little bit more of a reaction out of that. Right where I want it. Offhand, those sights seem to be right where I want it, because at that distance, that was a perfect shot. But we will put it on paper to make absolutely sure. Yes, sir, we will put this gentleman on paper, but that's going to be another story for another time. Talk soon.